Imagine working your whole life for one dream, the dream of becoming a star. Imagine fighting through rejection, sleepless nights, and endless auditions, only to finally make it. But then, just when the world is clapping for you, the one person you trusted most quietly pulls the rug from under your feet. This is not fiction. This is the story of a Hollywood betrayal so shocking, you won't believe how it ends. The city of Los Angeles has a way of swallowing people whole. The neon lights are beautiful, yes, but they're also dangerous. They shine so brightly that sometimes you don't see the shadows standing right beside you. For Ethan Cole, a young actor from a small town in Ohio, those lights were everything he ever dreamed about. Ethan wasn't born into fame. He wasn't rich. He didn't have family connections in Hollywood. All he had was talent, and a stubborn belief that if he worked harder than anyone else, his chance would come. Ethan was the kind of guy who could make you laugh in 1 second and cry in the next. He had that spark, the rare thing casting directors look for, but can never quite describe. People said, he's the next big thing. And for once, it didn't feel like empty words. But talent alone doesn't open doors in Hollywood. You need someone on the inside. Someone to take your calls, negotiate your deals, and whisper your name in the right rooms. That's where Victor Hale came in. Victor wasn't just a manager. He was a storyteller, a salesman, a man who could make you believe the impossible. When Ethan met him, it felt like destiny. Victor was older, experienced, and connected to powerful names. He walked into restaurants where directors stood up to greet him. He had the kind of confidence that made you think, if he believes in me, maybe I really am going to make it. I see something in you, Victor told Ethan the very first day. Not just talent, but star power. Stick with me, and I'll take you where you need to be. The big screens, the magazine covers, the roles people kill for. And just like that, Ethan believed. Why wouldn't he? Victor was polished, professional, and seemed to care about Ethan's future like family. At first, it was all working. Victor got Ethan auditions that seemed impossible. Supporting roles, small but noticeable. Soon, Ethan was walking red carpets, giving interviews, even getting recognized on the street. Ethan thought, this is it. My dream is finally real. But what he didn't know was that dreams in Hollywood often come with a price. And sometimes, the person you trust most is the one holding the bill. The betrayal didn't happen overnight. It started small, like a tiny crack in glass. Ethan had been promised a major role in a film, his first lead role. Victor told him, it's yours. The studio is excited. Just wait for the final paperwork. Ethan celebrated quietly with his family. He was already imagining the posters with his face on them. But then the news came back. They went in a different direction. Ethan was crushed, but Victor was smooth. It happens, he said. This is Hollywood. One day they love you, the next day they don't. Don't take it personally. Months later, Ethan found out the truth. The role hadn't gone to someone else because of the studio. It had gone to another actor because Victor had quietly taken a payoff, a consulting fee, to push Ethan out of the deal. Ethan didn't know it yet, but that was the beginning of the storm. Victor was clever. He knew how to hide things in plain sight. Brand endorsements Ethan was promised? Gone. Contracts he thought were being negotiated? Never even sent. Money from films? Delayed, Victor would say. Studios are slow to pay. But the truth was uglier. Ethan's money was being siphoned into accounts he never knew existed. Offshore accounts. Fake companies. A network designed to keep him blind. Ethan trusted Victor like a brother. He never checked the fine print. He never asked to see every document. After all, that's what a manager is for, right? But slowly, the whispers started. Other actors, producers, people who liked Ethan and couldn't understand why his career wasn't exploding the way it should. One night, at a Beverly Hills gala, Ethan overheard something that made his blood run cold. A producer, glass of champagne in hand, said to Victor, "Smart move keeping Ethan out of that deal. Made it easier for the rest of us." Ethan froze. He smiled for the cameras, shook hands, but inside, the pieces were clicking together. Something was very, very wrong. After the gala, Ethan couldn't sleep. The words kept echoing in his mind. Smart move keeping Ethan out of that deal. He tried to convince himself it was nothing. Maybe he misunderstood. Maybe the producer was talking about someone else. But deep down, his gut told him the truth. Something was being hidden. Ethan began paying closer attention. He started reading the contracts Victor gave him. At first, they seemed fine. But why were some pages missing? Why were some signatures not his? He remembered one deal. A streaming series he was told never went forward. Yet weeks later he saw a billboard of the very same series. Same role. Same script. Only a different actor. Ethan's chest tightened. Could it be? Was Victor selling him out? Ethan decided to investigate quietly. He contacted a lawyer friend he had met years earlier, someone outside Victor's circle. The lawyer told him something simple but powerful. "Ethan, always ask for copies. Every contract. Every payment. Don't rely on anyone else." So Ethan did. He requested copies from studios directly. He asked accounting departments for payment records. At first, the responses came slow. But then the documents arrived. And the truth came crashing in. Payments had been made, large payments. Money meant for Ethan. But the accounts didn't match his. They went to companies with strange names, companies Ethan had never heard of. Companies all tied back to Victor. It felt like ice in his veins. His trusted manager wasn't just lying. He was stealing. Ethan tried to act normal around Victor. He still smiled in meetings, still answered his calls. But now he was listening more carefully. Victor's smooth promises sounded different now. Empty, rehearsed fake. He noticed how Victor dodged questions. How he always asked Ethan to sign documents quickly without reading them. One afternoon Ethan tested him. He asked, "Victor, did that energy drink endorsement ever come through?" Victor didn't blink. "No, they passed. Wasn't a good fit for you." But Ethan had already seen the campaign, with another actor, one of Victor's other clients, drinking from the can and smiling into the camera. That was the moment Ethan knew. Victor wasn't just a thief. He was a betrayer. The night of truth came in Victor's office. Ethan walked in with a folder under his arm. Inside were the documents. The missing contracts, the payment proofs, the offshore account details. His lawyer had helped him prepare everything. Victor greeted him with his usual grin. "Ethan, my boy. Big news coming, I can feel it. You're about to blow up this year." Ethan didn't smile. He placed the folder on the desk. "I want you to explain this." Victor's grin froze. He opened the folder, flipped through the papers, and for the first time, the mask slipped. His eyes darted, his fingers tightened. "Ethan, you don't understand how this business works," Victor said, his voice lower now. "I did what I had to do to protect you." "Protect me?" Ethan's voice shook, but he kept it steady. "You stole from me. You killed roles I should have had. You betrayed me." Victor leaned back, trying to regain control. "Listen, you wouldn't be here without me. Everyone does it. This is Hollywood. It's survival." Ethan's chest burned with anger, but he didn't yell. He didn't throw punches. Instead, he slid one last document across the table, a letter of termination. "It's over, Victor. You don't manage me anymore. And soon, the whole world will know what you've done." Victor's face turned pale. For once, the man with the golden smile had no words. News travels fast in Hollywood. At first, Victor tried to spin the story, claiming Ethan was ungrateful, that he owed his career to him. But then the evidence came out. Emails, bank statements, testimonies from producers who admitted paying Victor under the table. It all painted a picture of a manager who had built his empire on betrayal. Studios cut ties. Other actors dropped him. His reputation, once golden, crumbled into dust. Ethan, on the other hand, gained something more valuable than money: respect. Fans rallied behind him. Other actors called him brave for standing up. And slowly, opportunities began to return. It wasn't easy. The scars were real. Trust was broken. But Ethan had survived the darkest chapter of his career. Looking back, Ethan often said, "I learned the hard way that Hollywood isn't just about acting. It's about business. If you don't protect yourself, someone else will take what's yours." Always read what you sign. Always know where your money is going. And never give blind trust, even to someone who smiles the widest. Victor's betrayal had nearly destroyed him, but it also gave him wisdom that no acting class could ever teach. And with that wisdom, Ethan rebuilt, not just his career, but his confidence. The weeks after Victor's downfall were the hardest of Ethan's life. On the outside, people thought he was strong. They saw the headlines. Actor exposes corrupt manager. They saw him smiling at small interviews, thanking fans for their support. But behind closed doors, Ethan was broken. He would sit alone in his apartment, staring at scripts he couldn't bring himself to read. He felt cheated, not just of money, but of years. Every deal Victor had stolen was a piece of his dream ripped away. Some nights he asked himself, "Maybe I'm not meant for this business. Maybe I should just quit." But every time he thought of giving up, he remembered the small-town boy he used to be. The boy who promised himself he wouldn't stop until the world knew his name. That fire inside him, though dim, refused to go out. Not everyone left Ethan during this storm. One of his co-stars from a small film, Maya Rivera, reached out. She had seen what happened with Victor and told Ethan, "Don't let one man steal your entire dream. You're bigger than that." Maya introduced him to a new manager, someone different from Victor. This time, Ethan didn't just trust blindly. He asked questions. He checked references. He made sure every contract was double-checked by his lawyer. And slowly, carefully, Ethan began to rebuild. Months later, Ethan got a call for an audition. It wasn't for a blockbuster movie. It wasn't even for a lead role. It was for a supporting character in a gritty drama about betrayal and redemption. The irony wasn't lost on him. When Ethan walked into the audition room, he carried all his pain, anger, and lessons from the past year. And when he delivered his lines, the room fell silent. The casting directors didn't just see an actor reading words. They saw a man who had lived betrayal and survived it. 2 weeks later, Ethan got the call. He got the role. That small role became the performance critics couldn't stop talking about. For the first time, people said not just Ethan is talented, but Ethan is unforgettable. From that point on, doors began to open again. Not overnight, not easily, but steadily. New roles, new scripts, new opportunities. This time, Ethan wasn't just the up-and-coming actor. He was the actor who had faced darkness and turned it into strength. Fans respected him more. They didn't just see a star, they saw a survivor. And with every step forward, Ethan carried one vow in his heart. Never again will I let anyone control my destiny. Months later, at another Hollywood event, Ethan saw Victor again. Victor looked different now. Older, smaller, almost invisible. The man who once ruled the room now walked quietly in the corners, ignored by most. His empire was gone. His name carried no weight. Their eyes met across the room. For a second, Ethan felt the old anger rise. But then something surprising happened. He felt nothing. Victor had taken so much from him, yes. But in that moment, Ethan realized he had won. Not because he destroyed Victor, but because he survived him. Ethan turned away, smiling, not at Victor, but at himself. Ethan often spoke at events later in his career, telling his story to young actors. He would say, "Hollywood will dazzle you with lights and promises. But remember, those lights also cast shadows. Don't sign your life away without reading. Don't give blind trust. And don't let anyone convince you that betrayal is just business. Because your dream is worth protecting." His words inspired many, and through his pain, Ethan had become more than an actor. He had become a voice of truth in an industry built on illusions. Success returned to Ethan, but this time it was different. Before he chased fame, now he chased impact. Every role he took, every decision he made, was filtered through one question. Does this honor the dream I almost lost? He started speaking to young actors in workshops, not in big lecture halls, but in small rooms where dreamers gathered with scripts in their hands and hope in their eyes. Protect yourselves, Ethan would tell them. Ask questions. Don't sign what you don't understand. Don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. The young actors listened wide-eyed. They didn't just see a star. They saw a mentor who had walked through fire and survived. For the first time, Ethan realized his story wasn't just his own. It was a warning, a guide, a light for others. But Hollywood has a way of recycling faces. Months later, whispers began. Victor Hale is trying to make a comeback. A few smaller actors, desperate for representation, had started signing with him again. Some said, maybe he's changed. Others said, he still has connections. When Ethan heard this, his stomach turned. He knew Victor hadn't changed. A man like that doesn't rebuild from truth. He rebuilds from manipulation. Sure enough, news broke weeks later. Victor was once again caught in shady deals. This time with even less mercy. No studio, no producer, no actor wanted to be associated with him. His name was toxic. His empire was gone forever. And in a strange way, Ethan felt pity. Because Victor's greatest betrayal wasn't stealing money or roles. It was betraying himself. Years later, on a sunny morning in Los Angeles, Ethan stood on Hollywood Boulevard. Crowds gathered. Cameras flashed. Why? Because Ethan Cole was receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It wasn't just a ceremony. It was a symbol. A boy from a small town who nearly lost everything to betrayal was now cementing his name into history. As Ethan knelt to touch the star, he thought of all the battles, the pain, the sleepless nights. And most of all, he thought of Victor. Without the betrayal, he might never have gained the wisdom to survive this industry. The wound had turned into a weapon. The pain had turned into power. He looked at the cheering fans and whispered to himself, I made it. On my own terms. That night, Ethan hosted a small gathering at his home. Not a wild Hollywood party, but a quiet dinner with close friends, including Maya, the friend who stood by him when everyone else disappeared. Raising his glass, Ethan said, This star doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to everyone who ever believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And it belongs to anyone out there who feels betrayed, broken, or forgotten. If I can survive it, so can you. The table clapped, not just for Ethan's success, but for his resilience. For the first time in years, Ethan felt peace. The boy who once arrived in Los Angeles with nothing but hope was now a man with scars, wisdom, and a legacy. And so Ethan Cole's story closes not with betrayal, but with triumph. The manager who once stole his dream is gone, but Ethan's dream lives forever, etched in the streets of Hollywood. This isn't just a Hollywood story. It's a life story. Because betrayal can break you, but only if you let it. Like Ethan, you can turn your pain into power. If this story inspired you, if it kept you on the edge of your seat, don't just watch. Be part of this journey. Backhand index pointing right, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this video with someone chasing their dream. Because here on this channel, we don't just tell stories. We tell the stories that inspire, warn, and light the way.